kind of a little bit backwards because I've already done the job. But first of all, this video is about cleaning the hairspring on a pocket watch, disassembling it, putting it back together, and getting it running. It was a little tricky because this watch it's a bit of a Franken watch. It's been obviously a couple of watchmakers have been at this thing and they put the wrong screws in. So I had a lot of fun making this video today. So I think you want to call it fun. There's my Myers 58 movement holder, and there's my balance tack already used. And I did screw hunting in this video again. So I don't know when I'm going to be able to stop screw hunting, but I want to go and do the shout outs right now because I think that the folks have been logging into my channel to see what crazy stuff I'm doing. So I'll go from the top here. So I think Sonny Morehouse has been a guy that's been on this channel quite a lot, and he's asked a lot of questions, but he's a watchmaker and he's been very nice to me. So that's Sonny Morehouse. I think it goes without saying that there's quite a few more that have commented on my channel over the years. One of the big ones here is Ed Horan, so thanks a lot, Ed. It was a pleasure working on your watch, and I know you told me that you really liked the work I did on it, and it's still running well. So, and going down, I got a Paul Breeden, who has made comments and likes the work I do. Jimmy Ko has made some comments and also likes the work I do. I'm looking at, there's a lot of comments on here. Kevin Summer, thank you very much. He's got a 992 model, and it came with 2 types of K-screws. I think G-O, anyway, G-O, so G and an O. So G-O's commenting quite a lot. Tony Axman, G-O, by the way, asks a lot of questions. He does like the videos, and he does like the format. Tony Axman has been involved as well as part of the subscribers, the subscriber group. Got Papa Scurvies. Some guy named Papa Scurvies, but that was one of my simulator videos I made on my computer. So, and let me see if I can find anybody else who's a big subscriber. Spinner, Mr. Spinner, has said a lot of good things about it. Bubba Smith, like the name, love the name. I love Bubba the golfer. So Bubba Smith, thank you very much for commenting on my videos again. You'll like this one, I think. The John Farmer is kind of a new guy to commenting on my videos, but he called me the King of Crowns. The King of Crowns, when I was trying to show how you actually deal with crowns and stems a couple of videos back. And what do we have? The Wilderness of Zen. And that was a guy that he looked at the way you balances, and then he looked at the way you balance tires. And it's kind of the same thing, except they've got automated machines to do balances, and they don't, or tires rather, they don't have it for machines, right? A gentleman called GCD Sales has also commented, nice comment on there. And he's also talking about mechanical oscillating systems, mass acted upon by springs, force down, force sets up a resonant frequency. In the case of rotating balance, I believe the term you asked to define at 2.50 plus or minus the polar inertia of the balance wheel. Oh my God, I think I just got a whole lot smarter. The people in the watch world are bright people, I'm telling you. Eric MacArthur, thanks for your comment. I get some pretty good comments in here. Let me see, who else? I think I mentioned Gary Rindfuss, I think, Gary Rindfuss. And I say a few shout-outs during the video, I guess, also. So, Lowett Cars, Lowettcars. He said, stick to watchmaking. I think that's the guy that heard me play guitar. So that's really interesting. Some other guy said that I was doing some cleaning of watches, and he said it was a woman, I think, and it looks like it's Arabic, and Gyomtra means cow urine. So thank you very much. I have mastered the helicopter pass, by the way, for cards. So, because I do. It's the time you can use the word do and not get in trouble. I do card close-up magic, and I've done it for years. I do need a new hip, and up here in Canada, it's almost a 2-year process, and my hip is hurting like hell. So, if you hear me whining while I'm doing watchmakers, because my hip hurts. And that's it for now. So let's get into the video, and thanks for subscribing and thanks for liking. And I really would like to know if you want the format of doing a live work, I guess, so I can actually do it live while I'm actually repairing or disassembling a pocket watch, and take comments as I'm doing it. So we could try that out and see if that works, and if it does, that'd be pretty cool, and I could keep doing it. So I think I'm going to be semi-retired soon, but I'm still working, but not as hard. So thanks a lot again, and enjoy the video out there in YouTube land. Hey, out there in the land of the U and the tube, JD here, and it's time to clean a balance. So this is the Hamilton watch I've been working on, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get down and dirty. And I saw other watchmakers do this, but the balance here is, if you look right there, there's 2 screws here, and that's to release the stud that's on the end here from the balance. So you can actually remove the balance and then take the spring out. So I can do it either, when it's sitting on the balance tack, or I can do it when it's sitting on the here on the Myers number 58 movement holder, my favorite movement holder. So, and I think I'll do it here. So I just have to unscrew these, which will loosen up the mechanism. Now I just slipped there, which is never a good thing, because you can ruin the watch by slipping like that. So that is not good. I just dove the screwdriver into the hairspring, but I don't think there's a consequence here. I think it's okay. So now I just have to take the stud out, and that just should slip right out. But I've got to get some really small screwdriver back there or something in order to just sort of move that stud back. That's going to be tough to do because the stud, that's going to be tough to do. So I want to move that stud out of the way without having to completely unscrew this plate. But let's see if I can just unscrew it a little more, and then I'll put my screwdriver in and then move it. Plate's almost off right now. Well, that's not going to come out that way, I don't think. Yeah, that's in right some good, as they say. There we go. Just get underneath it and nudge it out. So I'll have a look at that hairspring to see if there was any problem there. But the lesson learned here, and I know you guys like to see mistakes as much as good stuff, is that when you're taking these screws out here, please do not put a lot of pressure on them, because they will, if your screwdriver slips like mine does, it'll dive right into that hairspring. So I don't think I ended up with a problem, but we shall see. So I'm tightening these up just a little bit so I don't lose them. And now I can take off the bounce cock without any major issue here at all, which will give me access to the jewels and be able to remove the upper balance without a problem. So remove the upper balance jewel cap. So I'm just going to put this over here where I had it before. And so what I did was I put a little piece of Rodico on here, this is called the balance tack here. A little piece of Rodico here so you can just put the screw down and not lose it, which is a good thing. Now very carefully lift this up out of the way. So there we go. And that balance looks like it's in pretty good condition. And no, I didn't screw up the hairspring. I think it looks fine. Yeah, it looks good. So I can lift this balance out. I'm thinking just grab the balance by the arm. Normally I take the balance out. And if I can take that out this way, there we go. Get that out of the way. Let me just put this down before something terrible happens. So there we go. So now we got the balance and we got the balance cock. So what you want to make sure, if you look at the back here on the balance cock, you've got the regulator are you've got these pins here, these little regular pins. They slide along the hairspring, and you do want to make sure that those don't get squished or bent or anything, right? And if you look at that sideways, let me get up close here for you. You look at that sideways, they kind of dive. I'm going up this way, so it's kind of upside down, but they dive up beyond the jewel. So if you put this down like this, right, then they're going to get bent if they're down like this on a piece of, on a steel block or whatever you got, right? So the best thing to do is to have one of these. I'm going to grab this here, one of these blocks here, and that way you can rest the balance on that block while you deal with the jewel. So I'm going to move the hairspring out of the way. So what I'm going to do is just throw this into some lighter fluid. Now that'll clean it up nicely. I can throw it in and then agitate it later. So I have basically a bottle cap here that I use for that. So I got just a bottle cap, so you don't have to put a gajillion tons of lighter fluid in there. I'm looking around to see if I got another device here that I could do this with, because I think that I've got my dunker tank that I use quite often, but you people out there in the land of watchmaking don't have one of these. So this is the dunker tank. So, and here's the theory behind the dunker tank. So the theory is I'm able to put the balance cock on this here like that, right? And then the balance would be hanging there, and all I need to do is move these two, I'll call them screws, but they're not, because I don't want to go to jail. So move these two here, and it, right in here I would be putting the lighter fluid, and this would dunk the balance in the lighter fluid, and I'm good to go. So in this case here, I know that you don't have one of these tools. I made this tool for the purpose of dunking balances, so I wouldn't have to disassemble the spring in some cases. In other cases, it's just fine, right? So here I've got a nut that I bought, and I used my graver and I cleaned out the inside of that nut. There's threading in there, so I got rid of all the threading there. Then I built this plate here that just floats above these two screws, and then I have two coins here that I basically use my tap and die set, and I threaded the inside there, and then I threaded the material here on the side. And so when I do this, it rises up, and the plate, and these are threaded in here as well, in this base as well. And then I've got, there you can see the bottom of it there, and those are the pieces that are screwed down into it, right? So these are screwed down in nice and tight, and that's threaded as well. And then this just sits on top like this, and I made sure everything lined up perfectly. I can put this on there like this, and I can quickly move the tank up and down. That's my dunker tank. It's my invention. So it's a little bit of work to do this, but it works really well. So I'm not going to use this today because I know you folks don't have a dunker tank. So there you go. But I might use this to drown the balance, because I'll be using a lot less lighter fluid in this than I will in this. So let's just, all I want to do is throw this in, and I want to make sure that the balance gets soaked, and I know that lighter fluid will not impact the impulse jewel on this balance. So there's no issue there at all with the impact jewel. So I can put that in there. I like to cushion the pivots so they don't accidentally get, squished or hit the metal and something nasty happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of Rodico on this, and I'm going to push this pivot down on the Rodico, like so. There, so now I've got, did I get the center of that Rodico? No, we didn't. Let's try that again here. There, so now I've got that pivot is safe, and I'm not worried about the Rodico getting wet. Okay, this is not concerning me at all. So now I can take this balance, and I can throw that in there like that with the Rodico. There we go. Now I'm going to fill this up with lighter fluid, and I'm just going to let it sit for a while. It's going to sit for a while, and then I'm going to agitate it. So I've got my lighter fluid, and I'm just going to show you on this camera here. It's Zippo lighter fluid, highly flammable, so keep that away from stuff. Now I don't want to pour this here because my mat is here and I don't want the lighter fluid to get under my mat. So I'm just going to go off to the side and fill this up pretty high. So this is now filled to the top with lighter fluid, and I'm just going to let that sit. And at times I've had balance springs stuck to each other and gummed up and left the balance in the lighter fluid for like half an hour, and it ungummed it. It was amazing. The first time I did it, I dipped it in and agitated it, and it didn't work. And then I did it again, and the second time I just left it in there for half an hour. And it doesn't impact the shellac for the impulse jewel, so you don't have to worry about that problem. So there's no issue there at all. Now the balance itself, I need to take the cap jewel off of this, so I'm going to just set this aside while I take the cap jewel off of the balance. So this is a little bit trickier. I have been frustrated doing this in the past. And sometimes I actually have to punch it out from the other side. But what I really want to make sure here is that these pins here that slide along the hairspring don't get squished. So I want to make sure there's a hole I can work over where those pins are sticking in that hole. So right here would be probably good. So I need to hold that and then remove those screws like lightly. So that's flat there, and the pins are on the proper side. So that's a good situation here. So now I got to get deep and dirty again and unscrew these and just not screw this up. The other thing you can do too, by the way, is if this goes in a certain way, and I think that there's little indents here, but you can score this on the top just slightly. Everything good there? Something felt like it was going into place or something, but no, it's all good. There. Yeah, you can score that just slightly on the top. And you see watchmakers do that. That ensures that this is completely aligned up. Now, if it's a high-end watch and it's all polished, I don't recommend scoring the top. If it's not a high-end watch and you just want the thing to function, then that's a great way of ensuring that the jewel setting goes at the right place. I also lined my screws up. I'm pretty anal retentive, but I took that one out of the front, so I'm going to put it on the right, and I'm taking this one off the back. And I put that on the left. Where is that screw? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. It's just sitting in the balance cock here. Screws can jump and run. So, got some comments from my previous video, and where people were trying to guess where that. Let's see if this is loose at all. I think I may have to punch this out. People are trying to guess where where those two screws were from. So there we go. So turn it upside down and then get a stick of pegwood. It's the best way to do it to not damage anything. And try to remember what it looks like from that side, right? But get a stick of pegwood and you should just be able to push that out if that stick of pegwood is good enough. Like that. There it is there. So I push that out, and that pegwood is not going to damage the metal. So that's the most important thing, and I just punched it out. It was a little tight, and I'm just rolling the pegwood right now to get it out of the hole so I don't damage anything. But the pegwood is not going to bend the metal, so you don't have an issue there at all. So there. So then, the next thing I do, after I get this out, look at that nice job I did. And you can see all the leftover, the skin from the pegwood, but blow that out. Yeah, there we go. So the jewels should be here on the bottom. So these are the two jewels. So what I want to do with these jewels is I want to soak these guys again too. So, and I know how this goes back. And if you look at the jewel, the smaller part of the donut that's on the top right there, that faces down in the jewel setting, right? So that would go into the jewel setting like this and then hit the rim. So that would go in like this, and then you hit the rim. So that's how that goes. And then the cap, this is the cap jewel. And those are the two things. I did do a little, I scored the cap just a bit so I knew which way it goes, but it's fine as well. And if I look at the cap, it's dirty as crap. I'm not sure if I can get a close-up on that at all, but you can see the old stuff on that cap. You want to get rid of that, and you want to soak this jewel as well. So I think I can do a two jobby doos in one. So what I'll do is I will throw these jewels in with my balance. What do you think of that? That's probably a little bit more efficient than pouring a whole bunch more stuff in there. And then my balance has been in here for a while, so what I can do is agitate this balance a bit with a puffer. Take a little bit of watch paper and put it under here, because it's definitely going to splash around, and hopefully that'll catch the splashing, and then I can get my my puffer. So this is the puffer here, and you don't have to agitate it a lot, just a little bit. And all I want to do is have some fun. So all I want to do is go in here and very closely just bubble it a bit, and that's agitating it like this. I'm not worried about getting lighter fluid on my hands. It'll just evaporate in a few seconds. I don't think there's a safety sheet on the lighter fluid. There probably is, actually. And that lighter fluid just cleans stuff up so nicely. And I'll grab the now I'll grab, see, it did leave leftover lighter fluid all over the place, right? Try not to get my mat wet. So I will grab the balance now, and I want to put that down and like this. And I think we're good for the overall cleaning. I might want to grab the hairspring itself a bit and just extend it a bit. Looks like it's in pretty good condition here. None of the leaves seem to be stuck together on the hairspring, so I'm going to grab this like this. Yeah, and take this out and just rest the hairspring here. It kind of made my Rodico dissolve. I didn't know that would dissolve the Rodico. I learned something today. So, and I don't want to get the Rodico. There we go. So I can brush that off, but I don't want to get the jewels mixed up with that Rodico. So, because I just learned that the Rodico lighter fluid does dissolve Rodico. Look at that. So there's a Rodico in the bottom, and it's turning into just some kind of a thing. So I got to dump this lighter fluid somewhere where it's not going to cause a problem. Now I want to take the back end of a stick like this, right, a piece of pegwood, and I just want to pegwood the back of the not the jewel, but the cap jewel, just to make sure none of the leftover gunk is still there. And you can hit that with Rodico later, but just do it like this. Excuse me. And the jewel itself, I can turn that around and just let it dry off. Turn it around like that. And let that dry off. That jewel looks pretty good. And I'm going to peg that jewel out after. The peg is peg is a lady from Al Bundy, okay? And just go at this again with my stick here. Make sure I've cleaned off most of the stuff, so that looks pretty good. And now I want to blow this dry, But I want to make sure I don't blow these off the table, because that can happen too. I got a little lighter fluid on the end of it, so I just want to hold that and blow it while I'm holding it. So just hold that like this. And I think I'll move those jewels out of the way because I know what's going to happen. I will blow those out of the way. So just put these over here for now. Their lighter fluid's dried off them now. It takes almost no time at all for that lighter fluid to dry up, which is great. And now all I'm doing is using my puffer, and I'm just lightly puffing the hairspring. So this will help it dry off faster. Although if you're in no hurry at all, it doesn't matter. So you can also grab the hairspring itself by the stud. But you do have to be very careful when you're grabbing a balance by the stud, right? You do not want to damage the hairspring at all. And that's a chance. It's always a chance. There we go. And then I'm going to use, I'm just going to touch the tops of these pivots here. Make sure there's nothing on them. And this is like balsa wood. It's not pegwood. And just make sure the pivots are good. This pivot on the back end of this looks like it's got some Rodico stuck to it. And that's the Rodico that dissolved earlier. So I want to get rid of that really carefully. I want to make sure that there's no Rodico remaining. None. I think I can just grab it with my tweezers because it's just leftovers. It's pretty funny that, you know, when I've done this, I don't think I've ever put a little chunk of Rodico in the bottom of a pivot. Because I usually use my dunker table to do this job, and not like this. So, and I'm going to use the Rodico itself to clean off the top there. I'll have a very close look at that. Very close look at that pivot here to make sure there isn't leftover problems here. That looks pretty good. It's a pretty small little pivot. I'm telling you. And then I'll take this here and just jab it in a bit. That'll get rid of any leftover of anything. And do the other side. Have a look at it. And it looks good. So that's that. It's all dried up now, so I can move that out of the way. And I've looked at the, was it concentricness of the spring? So basically the spring is going around this way, and there's no, none of the leaves are stuck together. So I've got no issues here. Let me have a look at that again, just make sure I'm not lying. No, it looks good. If any of the leaves in the spring are stuck together, then you end up having an inconsistent beat of that spring. So it looks okay. I think I will put this through the, I will demagnetize this, But I don't want to do it until it's in the watch because it'll rattle that spring around a lot. That could cause even more issues to try to demagnetize it while it's in there. So, because it may be magnetic, I'm not sure. You have leftover magnetism in there somewhere. So that's that. So now I've got to reassemble this. This is a little bit tricky. Not terribly tricky, but a little tricky. So the first thing I want to do is put this jewel back in place, right? And the jewel just drops straight down in. But to do that properly, someone's going to get mad at me because I don't have gloves on right now, but too bad. So to do that properly, I want to put that in like this. I want to just make sure I wipe this down completely so there's no leftovers, because I saw some of the pegwood just came off, that's all. So get rid of that a little bit. Yeah, and I want to put the jewels in. So the first jewel I've got to put in, the small side goes in first, and again the same as before, I want to make sure that that there's no issue here at all. So what I've done before on these jewels, either you push it in with pegwood, which can be a little tricky because if the pegwood isn't exactly the right size, it's not going to work. But I can start it with the pegwood anyway. And it might work. Let me just see how big that pegwood is. How big is the pegwood, Peg? Alright, that seemed to go all the way to the bottom. Yeah, that's in nicely. So that went in nicely through the bottom. There you go. So I just used pegwood to push that in. And now all I need to do is put in the cap jewel. And that just should fall straight in. So now I'm going to look for that little mark I made. So if I look at that cap jewel, where the heck is that mark? Let's turn it on the right way first of all. And I can see the mark. And the mark is right. Got to rotate this jewel here. The mark is right there. So I want to put a little bit of oil on there. Now, you can oil the cap jewel and try to put the oil on. It's very difficult to just oil that cap jewel. So I'm going to do the alternative, and I'm just going to oil the top of the jewel itself. And that'll work as well. There we go. Because that cap jewel will be pressed against the jewel. This is incy bitsy work here. So I just took a bit of 9010 oil and apply that to the jewel there. And now the tricky part is to actually line that jewel up and making sure that my pins here aren't getting crushed. So I know that it's lined up like this. And once you line it up, it is possible with a pin to rotate it. So that is where it goes there. So let me get my pegwood again, because I should be able to drop this down with the pegwood. Yeah, that's pretty good there. And all this does is make sure that you don't mar the jewel or pop it out or something like that, right? You can use a stake from a staking set. So this is what it looks like. Back in. That's perfect. And you can use a stake from a staking set and just make sure it's a stake that's got an oval hole in it. Like, I'll just see if I can grab one here really quickly. I'll grab a big version of one here so you can see what it looks like. But one of these stakes here, you want to grab one of these, and again, I got to get the focus here. So one of those, and that way the rim of this stake here is catching the rim of the setting, and you're not pushing down on the setting because that'll ruin the setting. And I just dropped some glasses on the floor there, so that'll ruin the setting if you do that. You don't want to do that, okay? So now I got to grab these two screws and put them back in. It's a little bit late in the day, but I just have just enough energy to finish this job. So There's the first screw, and I'm thinking I should be able to screw that in without a problem. See if I can come in close. Oh my God. I think the hardest part about all this is doing it on camera. I think the guys that do watch repair work and watchmaking, I think they edit the crap out of their videos. So what they do is they make the perfect video. It's way too big. And they edit it until they get it right, so they don't show any of their mistakes. I do the opposite. I'm willing to show you my errors if you're willing to watch. Okay, that's one screw. So I do basically get it a little closer here for you guys. So yeah, so I'm willing to make a few mistakes and show you how what I've done to either fix it or not do that again. And so all you do is lay the screw down beside the hole, and then it rolls into the hole. Make sure you get the right screwdriver for doing this. And wind your hand up a bit in the screwdriver first, so you got a little bit of room to torque it the other way. I try to hold my breath when I'm doing this. So when I was really young, I was in the Army, and you kind of breathed out when you shot a gun. Then you held your breath for a little while. So there it is. That's back in there nicely, and you can see my Rodico is turning into goo, which means I'm going to have to clean all this up. This is something I'll throw outside on a step, because like a cement step, because I know that lighter fluid will just simply dissolve. Now the tricky part is putting this back together again. And so I've done all kinds of different techniques to put this back together. Sometimes I use my microscope, and I basically line things up at the microscope and do it that way. Sometimes I'm able to slip it in and make sure the pin is lined up and I've got the hairspring in there. Sometimes I'll move the hairspring, this whole unit here, as far apart as I can move it from the balance, and just move the spring inside. And sometimes I'll move it as close as I can and move the spring inside. So what am I going to do this time? So this time I think I'm going to take this and I'm going to unscrew it so that this is as far as it could possibly be away, right? Yeah, I think I'll do that. As far as it could be away, and then I should be able to see. I got to go this way. There we go. So that's a pretty far distance now. So I should be able to put that in and then lift the hairspring into that opening. This is what I'm hoping. So, and doing this, like I said, is such a pain in the butt. You got to do 1 million of them before you get good at it, I think. And I haven't done 1 million yet. I've only done 500,000 of them. And of course, the stud just happens to be right underneath where that other thing is. So what I'm going to do is loosen these screws up here first, so I don't have another problem. So loosen these screws up just a bit, and that way this plate lifts up. And then the stud can slip in. Oh my God. It's not easy. I may end up under the microscope after all. So go down deep and dirty. I'm going to have to do this sideways, folks. Which means I'm going to pull the camera back, because you guys aren't going to see anything if I do it without the camera there. So I'm going to do it sideways. I'm going to put the stud in like this, and I know the hairspring is going to have to lift up, so and I'm just going to tighten these up just a bit. I don't think this technique is going to work, by the way. There we go. Now I want to tighten this up just a tad. What I don't want to do is what I did last time, which is this, when the screwdriver kind of slipped. I want to make sure that this, the first turn of the hairspring is actually in the right position. So I can take my screwdriver and move that very carefully to this position. Now it's lined up. And then theoretically, if I tighten this, will that work? And it worked. So now I've got the hairspring. If you can see that, the stud, the hairspring is going right through the 2 pins. So we're good. So I got that set up, and I don't want to drop anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this down on the balance tack sideways here. And just so I can get it out of the way. There we go. So now it's just sitting on the balance tack. It's not resting right now. And this little device that I bought one of these balance tacks online. I put a pad on the top, and now I can screw this down to make sure it's the right size. I think I cut this down to size as well. And it's got other ones you can use here for tacks and stuff. But this worked just fine. And I glued this on, but I remember the glue kind of came loose on this. So I didn't, it was useless after a while. So now I've got this back into position. So I want to put a little bit of a wind on the watch. So I'm using a bench key to wind the watch here. My biggest fear again is that the spring lets go, because I know that when I put the spring back in, which was very hard, I had one of the gentlemen online tell me he feels my pain. Now who was that? Let me look that up really quick and give a shout out to that gentleman. So that was, let me see, I'm going into my YouTube channel here and having a look. So that was, someone else made a comment. That was Sonny Morehouse. So Sonny Morehouse, thanks a lot, man, out there. Thanks a lot for the comments, Sonny. You give me great comments, and I know you do this work. You said the T-bridle is a challenge to install. Usually takes multiple takes. He said, usually takes multiple takes. I appreciate that you share your trials. I'm reading it off my site here. Your trials and tribulations. A whole whack of exclamation marks. More than once, your trials and tribulations have helped me get it right. Keep up the great work, sir! Exclamation marks. And I think it would be great to see you do a live build, but a full build, maybe a 2-part build. So again, if you guys want me to do live streaming, I'm up for it. So you just have to let me know. I need a lot of people to tell me, yeah, JD, do some live streaming, and when you ask me questions, I'll answer them the best I can. So there's another gentleman just wrote me on my previous video called Gary Reinfuss. So shout out to you, Gary. I don't know if I've answered you before, but he said he enjoys my channel. He's a rank amateur at this, having worked on pocket watches. He's got 5 of them to run pretty well. And he said, I can say unequivocally that for me at least, finger cots and gloves are a complete pain in the ass. I love this guy. Absolutely love this guy. Particularly when dealing with mainsprings, which I wind by hand at this point. My solution, wash your hands a lot. Yeah, I'm with you, man. And you know what? I'll come on camera after, but I'm totally on your side with that. So I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So shout out to Gary and Sonny for sure. And I think I got Mr. Rumba. He said he likes it. And that guy named Joel, Jooo, he says those two screws are for the dial feet, mister. They're for the dial feet. And I know that there's a few people out there that I've gotten comments from over the years that are excellent supporters of my channel. Eric MacArthur is out there. Thank you, Eric. I've got who else is there? Ed Horn. Ed Horn, maybe number one fan and customer. So, and I did the Frankenwatch for Ed, and it's still running really well. So big shout out to you, Ed. I think you're in New York City somewhere, maybe. Not sure. Paul Breeden's written me a lot lately. Hey, Paul. And G.O. He's written me a lot as well. Seems to be a really cool dude. So, and as well, John Farmer's been on the line, and Sean Guest, or Gerst rather, has been on the line. If I pronounce your name wrong, I'll send you $5. Just send me your address, okay? we'll call it a day. So that's that. So the first thing I need to do is wind this. Now, like I said, when I put this mainspring in, I was nervous as shit. So I'm hoping this winds without a problem, and I won't have issues. So there we go. I just put a few winds on it. And then to put this mainspring back in, I'll get my $1 billion poking tool. You got to get one of these, by the way. If you don't have one of these, buy one. So this tool here, I've already showed you the number. It's around $30, 20 or $30, but it's a Bergeron 7010. This is a really good handy tool. I used it when I was putting together that 7750 watch, because without that, you're screwed, right? So that's that. The other thing, let me think here. I'm just trying to think of whether I want to do this or not. So what I'm going to do next is, I think, take the cap jewel off the back of this. So let's be smart here and do the full job. All right, so here is the back of the watch, or actually it's the front of the watch, but you notice the cap jewel here. This is the cap jewel for the lower bounce, where the lower bounce pivot goes in. There is another screw missing. So whoever repaired this watch in the past, he did a crappy job, because he basically didn't complete the job, and there's left, and so I got to go screw hunting again. Oh my God. Now I should be able to find this screw a lot easier than the last one, because I got tons of little tiny screws. So, but the first thing I want to do is pull this up, and in this case I am going to take my screwdriver and score it ever so slightly, just to make sure I put that back in the exact same place. There we go. It is scored. I'll have a look at what it looks like. And now I can unscrew this screw with the right screwdriver. Where is the right screwdriver? I find the yellow ones are just the right size. Now make sure you can get a firm grip on that screw. Make sure you address your screwdrivers so that the screwdrivers are completely flat and the right size, because you can screw up a screw by not doing that. Screw up a screw. So again, put the screw aside, right? Aside, put it right there, so I'll lose it later. Now I found that I can sometimes pull this up, right? If I get two screwdrivers on both sides, and I turn them in like this, and then I turn them. So I turn the flat part, and I'm sometimes able to just pull this cap up, and it makes the job so much easier if I can do that. And I can even screw it up a little bit, because there's no issue with screwing that up. I may switch sides here, so come on, stop it. So in this case, I don't think this cap wants to come up at all. Yeah, it looks like it's permanently not wanting to come up. So once again, I may have to punch that out. So this is really tricky. So when you punch, if you're going to punch out this jewel here, first of all, you got to watch out for the pivots that are hanging up, like the number 4 pivot and all the rest of them, right? So if I punch this jewel out, I'm hoping I don't have to, but if I punch this jewel out, yeah, you want to make sure that you don't foul the pallet fork. I'm going to try to get it out this way again, because it's much easier to work on it when it's out this way and not punched out. So I'm just trying to see how deep the jewel is, or the setting. So I want to move the setting out, which is, let me see, if I use yellow and white, that might help me. So I'm going to try again here. Not giving up yet. Come on, this thing's been in for 500 years. It doesn't want to move. No, that ain't moving, folks. I'm looking at it right now and it doesn't want to move at all. So what am I going to do? So if I can push that jewel out, I need to put this in the movement holder, because if I don't, I will squish something. So put that in the movement holder, and this movement holder is so good because you can put pressure on any side and it still kind of works. And I don't think the rod or the peg wood, I think, is too big for that. Yeah, that's going to cause issues. So I want to find a stake that's really small and also round, like this one here. And I'll fit that stake and see what it looks like. I don't want it touching the pallet fork. Putting the jewel back is not an issue. Let me just have another look at this. Yeah, I think I want an even smaller stake here. See what this one looks like. I need to get my flashlight out so I can look at my stakes. Pause for a sec. All right, it's hairy time here. So what I'm going to do here is very carefully tap this out. Funny, that doesn't want to tap out either. What the heck is going on with this friggin' jewel? Is that going anywhere? Yeah, it is actually. It's going down right now. Done. So I used a stake. I kept my butt away from the pallet fork, because you can ruin that pallet fork by letting it hit the edge of your stake. So you got to be very careful with that, doing it that way. And the result is I got myself a jewel and the cap right there. So now I get, you know, in any work, watchmaking or anything, hitting anything with a hammer is never good. So a hammer. One of my kids was in military training and he had to walk for days in wet boots and everything else, and his buddy said, how are your feet? And this is not one of my kids, this is with his friend. He said, my feet feel like hamburger. When I was in the Army training, we actually did a 2-day route march, and everybody was worn out, and it was really, really tiring. And so when we were finished the route march, I'm just going to look at this jewel here. Yeah, there's the jewel in the setting. See if I can get a close-up here of this. We finished the route march, and I think I can pour a little bit of this lighter fluid, the leftover lighter fluid, into this cap. And then I'll be able to use that to clean the jewel. What do you think of that? Try not to let any of that Rodico get down there. Anyway, when our feet were all blistered up, so the military said, don't worry, we can fix that. And what they did, get closer, even closer. What the military did was they made us lay down, and they said, lay on your back and put your feet up on this log. That jewel is actually in excellent condition. And there's the face of that jewel is dirty as hell. So you look at that, you see that face? Dirty. So they said, put your feet up on the log, and we're going to do something here. So I was like, okay, what are they going to do? This doesn't seem like it's a good thing. Anytime your feet are up on a log and a medic comes over, times are going to be tough. So what they ended up doing was in taking all of the liquid out of our blistered feet, which were completely blistered, and replacing the liquid with this cork material. It was liquid cork, and they just injected the liquid cork right into the soles of our feet, and then it hardened, and then the feet were now hard on the bottom, and we were able to continue with our route march. So You'd think I was in Vietnam or something with stories like that, but that was the Canadian military, and that was the way it was done back then. So I feel sorry for anybody that thinks that they can, you know, the times are tough and I haven't been tortured enough. Everything is relative, folks. Everything is relative. So when you haven't eaten in a month, or a week rather, not a month, but let's say you haven't eaten in a week, then food tastes so good. When you haven't, when you have walked for a couple of days, getting into a vehicle like a truck or something and driving is amazing. Everything is relative. So I'm just telling you right now, don't complain about life. You look at everybody else and the hard times they're having and what they're doing, like the folks in Ukraine, and you, comparatively speaking, probably don't have the problems they have. So, and I'm just guessing, but most people in North America don't have that level of problem. I know there are a lot of people that are poor and they do have problems. So my heart goes out to you folks, because often it's not your fault, it's circumstance, and your life has just gone that way. So anyway, I'm lecturing here. It's all relative. So my feet were like hamburger as well. So there you go. I do say sew a lot. I gotta sew a needle pulling thread. Ray, a name I call myself. La, something about dough and bread. Now I'm gonna take my little puffer and I'm gonna puff these babies, but I'm gonna try not to puff them right off the friggin' paper here. And I think I will dig for a screw for this one too. It's going to be a long video today, but somebody said to me, show me how you clean the balance. So when I tell people that I clean watches, and I usually tell them I charge $200 US to do the job. If you look at what I have to do and the amount of equipment I have to own to do this work, and I have to own a lot of equipment, including a $2,000 microscope, stereo microscope, staking sets, jeweling sets, jewels, you name it. That's quite the expense. And the joke was, how do you become a millionaire fixing watches? You start as a billionaire. That's the joke. So when I say that I'll charge you $200 to clean your watch if there's no major issues, I have to do all this work that you're looking at today, and I got to do it for $200. Now, if you understand, it's usually going to take me about 4 hours to take a watch apart, put it in the cleaning machine if I'm not distracted at all, do everything I've done here, including oiling all the jewels, everything that you've seen done here. It's going to take a minimum of 4 hours to clean that watch. So divided by 200 is $50 an hour. You're paying a car mechanic $100 an hour to do that, and I do that sort of thing too. And I'm telling you, this work is way more finicky than what a car mechanic's got to do. So when I say it's that much money, please understand the amount of investment and time that I've got to put in to actually doing that job. It's not something that can be done quickly. So now I've got to drop this jewel back in and somehow get it to the bottom. There we go. Let me see if can I actually use my pegwood to push it down. Hopefully. Yeah, that's not down all the way. See, this is going to be a little trickier. It doesn't want to go down. So what I'm going to do is get that stake I told you about before. That's got the rim on it. So there's the stake. There is the stake. So I'm going to use that to punch that jewel down. And I don't want to ruin the. It's a tight-fitting jewel. It's surprising it's so tight-fitting, but it may have been replaced at one point in time, right? So, but I definitely don't want to punch the jewel itself out of the hole. So you got to be very careful doing this. So do that. Is that in yet? And what I do is I check the other side and see how much it's sticking out. No, that's perfect. Yeah, I'll tap it a little more, but if you look at it from this perspective, you can see it's riding nicely there, and the jewel is in there nicely there. So I perhaps don't have to do anything more, because you do risk. I'll just tap it again. There we go. You do risk popping the jewel itself out, and then I'd have to go jewel hunting, which is almost as bad as screw hunting. they're both evil. Okay, so this one here I want to line up. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the top of that and then move it around, and I need to look at where my witness mark is, and it is right there. That's where the witness mark is. Yeah, so I can go like this, put that down, get up some oil. Oil's well that ends well. What time is it anyway? Ooh, it's 4:45, so I think the wifey told me to take the steaks out of the fridge at 5, so they're marinating or something. She'll say it's the only job you have is to get those steaks out of the fridge at 5, so you better do it. She's actually not like that. She's a sweetheart, so I wouldn't marry a non-sweetheart. So there we go. That's the witness mark there. So I want to just see if I drop that jewel in, and I think I can use pegwood for this. I'm gonna have to knock this with the friggin' thing too, eh? Just want to make sure. No, it's going down. Let me look and see how flat that is. No, I gotta knock it a bit. It is amazing how hard this thing is in. Doesn't take much convincing to go in, but you don't want to pound it in too far or too hard. Hard, hurry hard. I want to watch it while I'm doing this so it doesn't slide out. Sorry if I'm off camera right now, but I think that's as deep as I can go with this. Still seems like it's sticking out a bit though, which pisses me off. Is that sticking out or not? Hard to tell, folks. Hard to tell. The only real way to tell will be to yeah, it seems like it's sticking out a bit. The only real way to tell will be to actually use a watch. So I think I can use a flat stake for this. That way I'm not worried about it slipping and marring the face. So a flat stake that's a lot bigger will go over the whole thing. Even this one here is kind of flat, but it's round, so no, I want it bigger. I want it fatter. I want it to go over everything so I can knock the whole friggin' thing down. How about this one here? This is huge. It's huge. There we go. That's almost flat. That's so close. I got it lined up properly, but you know how hard that thing was to take out, right? So now it's flat. And the next guy who takes this watch apart is going to have as much fun as I did. There we go. So that's done, and the jewels are oiled, and they're not cracked. So you got to. That's why I used a bigger stake that could cover the complete jewel setting, and the jewel is on the inside of that. So just to be safe, right? You normally don't have to do that. I think that this is the first time I've ever had to put a setting back in where it was so damn tight, but you saw how I had to get it out the same way. It was ridiculously tight. So that's done, and I'll put one screw in. Where is that little tiny screw? Right here. So there's the screw. I don't want to forget it. That went in this hole here. I'm pretty darn sure. And where's my screwdriver? Yeah, and that basically I need to find another screw this size. You know what I should do is look for the screw first before I screw this in. That way I know I got the right size screw. So I'm going to go to my smaller batch of screws here and see if I can find one here. I still may lathe that other screw though on the top to get that in. So I'm going to just take this screw out and then put it right here so I can have a look at it. I don't need this watch paper anymore because that'll just make the screw slide around. Just put this over here and put my screw down. Action packed, I'm telling you. So now I'm looking through a million small screws, and that is a very small screw. So let's see if I can find something that's that small. This one here I found, but it's funny, this one's even bigger than that one. Oh my God. That is the world's smallest screw. This might be a week's worth of screw finding here. So even the smallest one was too big. It's my collection of screws here. I'm going to have to find one that's really small. And it's just a matter of moving screws out of the way and looking at them as you're moving them. I don't want to spill them on my desk because then I'm going to have to get them all out again. But I might have to. See, every screw I find that's this size is too big. I could look at my other. There's a small one here. What's that size? No, that's too big. Let me look at my other screws to see if I have a better chance here. Apologize for the waste of your time with me and screw hunting lately. But when you get a movement that someone has bastardized, I want the name of the guy that's worked on this movement. I want the name. I want to know where he lives too, okay? So I can go give him a little visit and say, okay, buddy, why? So there's a whole whack of screws here. Now I know there's all sizes in here. So with any luck, I'm going to just reach in and grab the right one in 2 seconds. All right, there's one there. That one's super small. So that one's actually smaller than what I need. That's too small. Oh my God. This one is small as well, but the screw size is too small. So it's funny, I got screws now that are too small. This one here, no, that's too small as well. I'm looking at the base of them to see, to make sure that also the head can't be too big, otherwise it won't close off on the drill setting well. So I have to look at the head of the screw as well as the size. Like this one here is too small. And how about this one? So this one I think would work. The base is a bit wide. The screw, the head itself is a bit wide. Oh, I just saw one here. What's this one here? No, too small. This one here. That's not bad there. Let me try that out and see if it fits. Let's move this one out of the way. So I know that this one here is the actual screw. So let me just put this in place first. There we go. Chase that into the hole, people. Chase that into the hole. There's a bunch of words. Now what was I supposed to do? Take the steak out of the fridge. Now I'm going to try this one first and see if this fits, because it might be too small. Nope. It's in there. Look at that. See those two screws? Perfection. Which only goes to prove if you have enough patience and a million screws, you can do anything. So, patience and a million screws. So now, the watch, I'm ready to put the balance in. I was curious about those 2 extra screws because somebody said that those are likely from they're from the dial feet. So, and when they first said that, I was like, they're not dial feet. And I was thinking the guy thought they were dial feet, and no, that he didn't think they were dial feet. He thought they were from the dial feet. So I'm the idiot. So I apologize to whoever that was who said that, because je suis l'idiot. So that's my final opinion. I'm Chatty McChatty Pants. So, and you guys, and I said so again. So. So I'm gonna. So the first thing I do here is make sure the palette fork is on the right side. So if I'm gonna enter this way and go and turn it this way, like that, I make sure the palette fork is towards the inside of the watch, like that. That way it can gather up the impulse. The impulse jewel won't kind of get snagged. So I'm gonna grab this somehow. It's not wanting to come off. There we go. And I think I got way too much of it. Just grab it like that. And you want to move the watch movement itself and not move the balance. That's the best way to attack this problem. So get it close, and I usually like to have my fingers around the sides so I don't have the problem. And there we go. So I don't have the problem of if I have the fingers on the side, the balance won't fall off. If you have that balance in place and the balance cock falls off, that spring is effed. That's all I can say. It's effed with a capital F. So I'm going to hold this down just a little tiny bit to put this screw in. Looks like it's running like crazy. Good stuff. There, I was holding my breath a bit there. I think I can use my red screwdriver. I'm taking this stick and I'm holding it down super lightly, so. There we go. Done. So now the balance is done. I just wanted to see if the movement, if the screws were in, because I want to apologize to the gentleman who said it's probably those screws. So let me look here. This, I don't believe this, does this have a ring on it? A ring? It does. It does have a movement ring on it. There we go. That is the movement ring, but you want to put that in after you put in the dial screws. So let me just take this baby out for a second and check out the dial screws. It's fundamentally fixed, and I did the balance, and that's what I wanted to do here. All right, to the gentleman who said it's probably the dial feet, he's right. He's absolutely right. It was the stupid dial feet. So I'm gonna, this is my watch. I think if it wasn't my watch, I'd have all kinds of gloves on right now. But it is the dial feet screws. So these two screws here, they look like they go right in those holes where the dial feet are. So one of them is here. And how the heck they work themselves out, I do not know. So I just don't understand, but that's what they are. So what I'll do is I'll put those in lightly, keep my fingers away from the balance, because that can screw up the balance. And always put things at an angle like this, so when you're putting those screws in like this, if you drop the screw, it doesn't drop it into the balance. So keep it at an angle. There's one of the second mystery screw. I just put that in a little tiny bit. And then I want to put the face on. Well, I can actually, I got to put the face on next. So I'm going to put the face on. I'll clean the face later. But to put the face on, I can actually just put the watch down like that. It's ticking like a charm right now. And I want to put in some other parts. Okay, so I'm going to put in the minute wheel right there. That's where that goes. So that just should line itself up here. And then put in the hour wheel. This is the hour wheel, but I can't put that in until I put in the cannon pinion. Oh my God. I almost didn't put the cannon pinion in first. Let me try that again here. So get this out of here. Put on the cannon pinion. I forgot all about Mr. Cannon Pinion. Now there's a few ways of doing this guy. You can just simply push them down. I in the past have gotten a stake out to help me push that down. Alright, so you want a stake with a hole in it, like this, like that, and you want to push this down, and this stake might be a bit too big, so I need to find one that's a bit smaller so it doesn't put too much pressure on the teeth. Alright, I found the perfect stake. These other stakes are very nice but not the right size. This stake is a perfect stake, and you see that little gash or dash in it? That means this stake is actually meant to punch on the roller table, so, and the impulse jewel fits in there. But this stake actually fits in perfect here. I can usually hand push this down, right? So without having to use a hammer or anything, it just sort of goes down like that. So that's down, and lift that up. And that should be down all the way. Let me look and see if there's a problem at all here. Now it's down all the way. So that's good. Yeah, a little bit more. Needed to go just a tad more. And now I can put this wheel in here. And make sure this is lined up. Hoping it's lined up. And that shook the balance off to the side. By me doing bink like this, it actually shook the balance off to the side. But I'll keep putting this in because I can fix that quite easily. So that's that, and then put this in here, and that's the hour wheel. Not sure why my balance came out, but it did. Having to push the cannon pinion back in. There's always something. And then this here needs, this keeps the hour wheel down. That's why you put that in. It's a little leaf of, a very thin leaf of, I think, copper or brass? Copper maybe. So, and now you got to line this up nicely, right? So if I look at this, I look at where the seconds hand is. That's the best way of lining it up. So seconds hand is right there. So I'll turn it this way, right? And I'll just see if that's all lined up perfectly, and it should find the holes. And it has. It doesn't like this hole because I need to loosen this screw here. Yeah, the balance went on the other side. It overbanked from pushing down on that thing. I clicked it or something and it overbanked, so it should be fixable though. Come on! There is always something, isn't there? Let me try this again here. Yeah, it's not even wanting to come out. So maybe you got to put the screws in after you put in I'm pissed off that I got to put this balance back in again. So I only have one screw down. So let me just get my screwdriver in here and then maybe go on the other side and work on it, because there's always an angle, right? Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the dial feet, and these dial feet, they want to be cozied. So if I look at the dial feet here, look at the dial feet there, see the angle on those dial feet? So the screw has to go inside of that, and that's why it doesn't want to do that. So I actually have to take this screw out, put the see how it's overbanked? That means the pin, the actual impulse pin is on the wrong side of the pallet fork, and that's when I pushed down and it jerked it, and that can happen. So now I got to get this screw out again. This is an adventure that's been more painful than any other friggin' watch I've had to work on. It's just been terribly painful, one problem after the other. Yeah, what the hell is going on here? I think I can push it out from the inside of where the hole is. Yeah. Yeah, it's all the way in there. Come on out. I'm trying to push it out from where the threads are, so I'm going to turn this off so you don't get bored poopless. Alright, I got the screw out. So now I know why this is like that. So I'm going to actually fix this balance before I put this back in. So I can take that off and take this off over here and put this in the movement holder and get this watch running again. I remove the balance. It's like going backwards. That's why I don't like that, and you get stupid stuff happening in watches, and then you got to do some stupid repairs when you didn't think you had to. Yep, there you go. Looks like the screw is also sticking up. I'm having all kinds of fun here, and I'm recording it all. The pains and the trials and tribulations of watchmaking being recorded live. Push that to the other side again. Get the balance in like so. Come on, get in there. And then rotate like that. Put the balance in position. There's a screw is sticking up for some reason on this, so I don't know why. I gotta cut here for a second. Alright, we got it running again. This screw is not... I think the previous watchmaker changed every damn part on this watch. So I'm convinced that this watch has been, completely revived and every part has been taken apart and put back in. I'm just making sure it works upside down, no problem. And now I can put these parts back very carefully. Come on. And I've got this little gear here, clutch gear or whatever you want to call it. And then the hour hand goes in here like that, and it sort of meshes with the minute hand. That's good. It's meshing. And then this goes in. The dial washer. See, I remember the name of it. Took a while, but I remembered it. And then this just goes straight down. And I look where the second hand is, and it's right there. And this should find the dial feet, right, and go right down. So there it is there. So that's down. Now I can turn it sideways and put these screws in without it effing up. This one still wants to be a pain in the butt. I may cut out because I'm going to have to play with this one here. This particular... Oh, you know what? This screw is not out either. Oh my God. What am I doing? There we go. So that's in there. I'll Rodico the crap out of this so it's not an issue. That's 2 down. It's ticking away. Sorry about the video here. I think you're not looking at it, but I can point it up a bit more here so you can see me working on it. So it's 2 down, 2 in. Keep my fingies away. I think that's all it had, by the way, was those 2 dial screws, not 3. So that's that. And then I just want to put this dust cover on, right? And you guys can, like I said, you guys can give me poo later about not having my gloves on here. But this is my watch, and I wanted to show you the technique. So there's the dust covers in. I just want to very carefully put that down. Keep my fingers away from the balance. And we're good. So the dust cover is now in. So there it is there. Good old Hamilton Lancaster. And I'm going to just dump some of this stuff here because I think it is very dumpable. And now I want to just put that movement into the watch here, because I will put the hands on later. So looking at what side this goes in, I think it goes in this way. You can usually tell when you're looking at the movement. You can see there's leftovers for the screws that hold the movement in, right? So, and I can only find one movement screw here, which means I gotta go screw hunting again and find a second movement screw. Oh my God, this is getting crazy. This is not, no, that's not a dial screw. That's one from before that I thought, this is the one I think could replace this one here, but I got to shave material off of it. So yeah, the dial, I think this goes in, yeah, there's two. There's this one here, which is nice and long, and this one here, which is really short and stubby, which shouldn't even be part of this. But again, it's the Franken watch. So usually you can see the marks there, which mean the dial would go up like that, which means I got to feed it in from the bottom, right? And you can pull this out to start off with. I think this is probably already pulled out. And then I just usually put it in like this. Move this camera up a bit here. I usually put it in like this and then turn the crown until it finds the gap, finds the hole basically. And let me see, is that working? There we go. Come on. Come to daddy. There we go. So that's nice. That's in there. And that's in there. So the other thing I like to do though is put the top of the watch on here, because it'll cozy down on the dial. And while I turn it around, and I can put the retainers in, and I'm going to put the long one in the back here, right? So I can like put that in there, and that way I know it's held that side from that side nice and tight. And the other one is on the other side, but I don't know if that'll hold it tight or not, because it's another Franken screw. So again, this watch has been, somebody lost all the screws for it and did all kinds of crap for it. So it's a little bit upsetting, but it's not going to keep me up at night. Yeah, this little screw is right here, and I don't even think that'll fit or do anything, right? Yeah. No, it catches just a little tiny bit. Oh my God. There, the Franken screw's in, and there we go. And did I oil this already? I can't remember if I oiled it. I think I did, actually. I think I did. I remember applying oil to all those pivots, so I think I did oil it. So the only problem this currently has is this screw here, but the screw is in. The screw here is actually in. It's just not the right screw. So that's good. Let me blow out the case here and put the back on it. The back. I'm going to push this down. There we go. And just put the back on it, and we're good to go. That's it. Should take a picture of this and use this as the picture for the video, right? What do you think? The Franken watch. And I'll just do this so it's got a nice photo of this. And turn on the lights, the lighting. Where is it? On. There, I turned the flash on, so now I've got. There we go. That's a good photo I'll use for the video. So that's it. So let me just put this on the back. This is a crazy old watch. The case is kind of weird on this thing too, eh? So it's got this Roman kind of thing happening here. So that's the case. Of course, it's going to take me a week to put it on because it's probably not threaded right. So this watch is kind of would cost you around maybe $100 because it's 17 joules, so it's not a high joule watch. It's been beaten up a lot over the years, so you could call it a beater watch, but or you might not want to call it a beater watch, but it's got issues. I'm going to finish this off by putting the hands in, because that's what a good person would do, right? All right, we put the seconds hand in here. Just lean it over like that and then push it down. There we go. I'm just looking to see how high it is, because I usually use the back of my push it down. See, that's touching. So, and to fix that, I just take a screwdriver here and I will, while I'm bracing the back of this, I will lift it up a bit. There we go. That's usually enough. You see what the result is. It's still pretty tight. Still looks like it's touching, right? But it's kind of scraping along. I should fix this later, but right now I'm not going to. Yeah, you know what? It is touching. What are you doing, mister? So I'm just going to look at this again and see if I can move that up. I don't want to snap the hand, I just want to move it up a bit. So it looks like it's kind of bent. It's an old hand. There we go. I got clearance now, if you look there. So I've got good clearance there. But again, the value of this watch is pretty low. It's a nice Hamilton, but it's a low valued Hamilton. And let me just press on the hour hand here. And I just press that on and then test it against the clearing, see if it clears. So let me just push that down. Yeah, that'll clear, no problem. I always look up at it too at an angle to see if it's jockeyed one way or the other. That looks like it's cleared there, no problem. It's actually at the 12 o'clock position, which is nice and handy. Handy, get it? And then I can just punch this one on and make sure it's lined up with 12 as well. It's causing me pain right now. Need to get a smaller one of these things here just to push this down. So you just push it down like that, and I use this to make sure it's all the way in. And all the way down, basically. I've got a hand presser I bought, but it's not. This watch is not worthy of that hand presser. And I look at it from the other side too to make sure there's no crazy slanted angle on there. And then if I pull this out, there's a lot of hope that I can set the watch. There we go. Now I got to make sure that this watch, the hour hand, clears the second hand. If it doesn't, I'll fart with this later. And it does. It clears it nicely. So if you look at, if you're able to see all that, almost zoomed in properly. So there it is there. And there's the hour hand, nicely clearing that seconds hand. And putting hands on is an art. So I've done this for quite a while. So it's, for me, it's not a big deal. This crystal could be replaced. It's kind of a scratched up old crystal. I could try to clean it. Or just see if I can replace it because it's scratched up, or just leave it as vintage. Also, for the finger marks on the dial, I found Rodico is so good for just removing finger marks. You just do that and the fingerprints go away like crazy. There's no issues at all, and it also cleans the dial up nicely. And you want to do that kind of after you've put it all together, because you're likely going to put a print on it here or there. So, but that cleans it up very nicely. Yeah, and you can just move the hands out of the way to get to the back end of it. There we go. That's actually working nicely. And I always look as well at the hands. What is it? 510. I got to put the stake out, or I'm going to be in big trouble right now. All right, let me end this video fast before I get in trouble. Put this on and run. There. Good enough. I'll tighten that later. There's the watch. I got to go put the stakes on, or I'm going to be trash, baby. Trash. There it is. Thanks for watching my video. I'm going to process this tonight, and it's all good. All right, the steaks are out of the fridge. So funny. So again, I think I need to do a little bit of work on this case because it seems to not want to go on well, but the watch is working well. I don't know what the amplitude is of it, but it looks pretty good. Actually, and this is on full fast, so I think when I slow that down a bit and turn this tiny screw here the other way to slow that down, this thing will run a whole lot better even, right? So we'll do that. We'll get this thing ticking like crazy. We do that right now here. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, we'll just move the regulator arm to the center. There we go. And again, I still have to demagnetize this watch. I'm not going to bother doing that right now, but that's the watch there. So I'll demagnetize it later. Seems like it's running fairly well. Getting that case back on is crazy. It's an old beat up case, but it's a Hamilton 17 jewel. It's just not worth putting into a high-end case, and I know I'm going to have fun trying to get the back on, so I'll do that after. It just doesn't want to, the screws don't want to find home on this old case. I can't remember how much I paid for this watch, but it wasn't a lot, so I'm not really that concerned over it. There we go. So we got this on here. Good stuff. So that's on, no problem. And the case back, I'll just pound that until it goes on. What do you think? Usually they can feel their way on and then I have no issue, but this thing here just, it wants to rock this way and rock that way. I don't know. It's not wanting to come back on, but this is something you fart with after the video. So you got gaps and gaps and more gaps in the back and no gaps there, and I tend to look for the gaps to see if it's going on nice and level. So. And there also seems to be a little bit of corrosion left over that I should have cleaned up first. But anyway, that's it. So the main objective of this video was to show you how I clean a hairspring. So that was it for the Franken watch. I got it running again. It's nice. It's working. I'm not sure if it's keeping time. I'll put that on the time grapher and see how far it is off and then adjust it. I do think the bail on here was Christian. Little joke there. Christian bail, get it? Anyway, somebody made this bail out of something and then pounded it in. So this bail could be removed. I was unable to get the case back on properly, but that's just going to take some time because some of them are fussy. Some of them are fussy, and I can see a bit of corrosion. So I may want to take the movement out of this watch and work on the case later on. But this video was about cleaning the balance, and I hope you learned something. I did have that one screw that I still want to take this screw, I think, and put it in a lathe and see if I can replace the screw I put in there on this watch. It had a lot of different, there were screws missing, like you saw, the screw holding back the lower balance staff the actual, not the jewel, but the cap jewel. So the setting, cap jewel setting, one of the screws was missing. So I was able to find a really good screw for that. I was amazed. So that's it. So that's my video. Thanks. It's a long one, but enjoy it. If you want to be bored, then just play it without audio. You should do fine. Thanks a lot. Let me know if you want me to do live. Send me a comment. Say, yes, JD, I'd love you to do a live session in disassembling a watch, because I can talk and answer questions, and you can tell me while I'm screwing things up. You can tell me why I'm screwing them up. Don't screw them up, JD. All right? So I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing for my channel.